What's up, everybody? Welcome to Two Dizzy Dames, and it's just us two dizzy dames here talking about movies, music, everything and everything. And today we got a really cool episode. We are talking about Hocus Pocus.
Let's light the sucker and meet the old broads.
I watched Hocus Pocus 2, and I've seen part 1 recently.
As have I.
Thoughts? Thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, we'll start with Hocus Pocus 1. So, I am a very big fan of Hocus Pocus 1, but I tried to think back to when that started.
Okay.
Because it was, like, I don't think I watched it in 93. I was very little. I was, like, 6. So I don't think I watched it. Although my 5-year-old watched it, and she loved it. So maybe I did. I don't remember. So I did some research on it and found out some interesting information. But a brief synopsis on the movie, and there are going to be spoilers in this episode. So if you've not seen either Hocus Pocus, just go watch it first.
Don't watch
and come
this.
Back to us.
Yeah.
So the movie is set in Salem. It's in 1993. It's 3 witches who were, I guess, predating the Salem witch trial because the trial wasn't happening for them, but it was...
Right.
Yeah. So they get resurrected with the spell because the Virgin lights the black flame candle.
Right.
And then these teenagers and this adorable little girl go running around town to stop these 3 witches, and nobody believes them. All
she was cute.
Crazy. She was cute. And they eventually do away with the witches, and they turn into dust. Now, here's where my big issue is, because they turn into dust.
Right. I had that same issue.
We have a sequel. But
I thought the show was like, how are they gonna do this part 2? This doesn't make any sense.
Yes. So, and I said that when they first announced they were doing it. I was like, oh, maybe it's gonna just be like a prequel, like their backstory, which I would have absolutely loved. A prequel that is just about their story, and maybe like mixing a little bit of the prequel in with like new witches becoming witches, and like the story happening again,
right?
A couple hundred years later. But for Hocus Pocus 1, it didn't really matter that they got resurrected after being hanged, which, okay, they put the curse on. That was the point. They can come back.
Yeah.
They come back, but then they literally turn into stone and dust. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on how they brought the sequel back?
Okay, so I totally had the same feeling when I heard that with because the end was like, when I first saw part 1 all those years ago, I was like, there obviously isn't going to be a sequel, which is a shame because I thought part 1 was really great. And I'm like, I wish they would have left it open with them dying or being like just disappeared into oblivion or whatever, a different way to leave it open for a sequel. So I remember like after, like, what is it, like last year or something, for some reason there was a lot of buzz about people saying we should get a Hocus Pocus sequel, and I kept seeing that in all my Halloween groups that I'm in. And all of a sudden they announced it. And I'm like, but that doesn't make sense. How are they going to do that? Like, what? It's weird. And then I'm like, the black flame candle already got lit.
And it was lit and melted to the ground. Like, it was done.
It didn't make sense, man.
So,
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, part 1 was so good too. I really did enjoy it. I think, one of the guys that starred in it, I think he was on the show Erie, Indiana, on Nickelodeon. Omri Katz or something.
His name.
Omri Katz and Thor Birch. Yeah, I think so. And I love Thor Birch. Oh my god! And I have to say this: as someone who loves like old television and movies, I really loved that Gary and Penny Marshall were in part 1. Do you remember them?
Yes.
They were the husband and wife. And for those of you who don't know, Penny Marshall, she was on Laverne and Shirley. She directed the movie Big. She did a lot of really great movies. Her brother, Gary Marshall. Oh God, I'm missing a really big movie that he directed. I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember. He did a lot of big movies. He was just like a sister, but nonetheless, it was so great. And which, real quick, they did pay an homage in part 2, and I loved it.
Yes, they did. And
oh my God, I was so happy.
Very off guard because that brought up another question about why were they able to do that? I'm not going to give that spoiler away, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, why would they put that in there if that movie, like, how would they know that couple dressed like that? I don't know.
Exactly. So
I was like, didn't make sense.
Touching back on some of the cast, did you know that Thora Birch was the only one of the cast who won an award?
Really?
Mm-hmm. The only other
Get out!
The only other award that was won for that movie was for costuming.
Very good costuming.
Yes, it was very good costuming, but none of the other cast,
Very
with the
good.
star-studded cast that they had and all the talent they had, none of them won awards. They were nominated, but she's
Wow.
the only one who won.
That's crazy because Bette Midler's a really big name. Kathy
Hmm.
Najimy and Sarah Jessica Parker, they're like really big name actresses, and they did a wonderful job,
Yeah, so
as well as everyone else in the cast.
the reason I ask about, or reason I brought up about thinking about where I would have been and whether or not I would have seen it as a kid is because that movie was a phenomenal flop. It did
Part two
no,
or
part
part
one
one?
was
Part
so
one. Oh,
bad in the movies that they actually lost. I think they said Disney lost like $16 million on it.
see, I don't remember it being in the movie theater. I didn't go see it.
Yeah,
I remember it just rerunning on TV, and it's like, well, Hocus Pocus is on. I guess
right,
I'll watch it. And then I started to really like it.
right. So, and I think that's what happened. So we have an entire group of people around our generation who freaking love this movie, but it flopped so hard in the theaters. And is it because they just put it on like the Disney Family Channel or whatever and just beat it into us with the 13 Days of Halloween? Is that why we all remember it?
Probably. Probably.
Yeah, I can't think of any other reason why we have so much nostalgia around this movie that did so poorly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of movies that are like that. Like Rocky Horror Picture Show was a really bad mess, and that is like a huge cult classic. And that's what it is. I think it just became this cult classic that us kids that were born in the 80s and 90s just grew to love.
Yeah.
And it was just something that was just forever like loved in our childhood that was in the 90s with us, that we took with us. And I was really excited to hear they did a sequel. I was just really skeptical, like, man, really? Are they gonna bring it back? I don't know. Is that gonna work?
That's why I was curious because it just seemed like a weird timing. It's been 30 years, right?
Right.
It was a movie that didn't do well. It didn't gain popularity until like the mid 2000s when they started making merch and like doing all of this crazy stuff with it. And all of a sudden it's getting this huge sequel that was like overhyped, in my opinion.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
And why is it an hour and 40 minutes? That's kind of long to me.
Well, the original was an hour and 35, I think.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that.
They moved pretty quickly.
They did. I mean, if you're enjoying it, and I did enjoy it. There was some of the issues I had in part two, like the songs were cute and everything, but like her singing Blondie, that bugged me. That rubbed me the wrong way because it's like, okay,
Yes.
They didn't know what lights were, they didn't know what mirrors were, they didn't know what creams and lotions were, but they knew Blondie one way or another.
Yeah.
Come on. You thought the same thing?
I did. I actually verbally said something very similar, and my 5-year-old was like, because I did not let her watch it. I wanted to make sure there was nothing scary or anything that would cause her problems because it's a newer movie and I hadn't seen it. So I watched it on my phone first this morning before we watched it again this evening, and I said something about that, and she goes, "What is it? I want to see." And I was like, "Oh, well, no." It's just
What is it?
You wouldn't get it. But
I know it was like.
I didn't
It was
understand of all the song choices they could have made. Why that song?
I loved from part one when she did the "I Put a Spell on You." I loved it. That was, and it was an original a song from somebody else, but the way that they did it, they spun it so cool. They really, really did, and it was like, God, it was awesome. And then, oh yeah, I don't know if you caught this in part two, but not only were people dressed up as Gary and Penny Marshall's character, but did you see someone dressed up as the mother in part one, the Madonna?
No, I didn't catch that, and I watched it twice.
You remember? Do you remember the mom in part one dancing from the spell, dressed as Madonna? Somebody in part two was dressed as that costume.
See, okay, now I don't understand because we're going to have to give the spoiler because there's no way to talk about it without the context. They're watching the TV and they're seeing the movie we watch on the TV.
It was weird, yeah.
How does that work? Like,
I don't know.
Did they?
It was maybe we're taking it too seriously, and it was just intended to be a joke. Like, check it out, they're watching the movie.
I'm sure it was. It just did not make sense to me.
Because you wanted to follow a story like these witches really came back, and it's cool.
Now,
but
I did say, so I was talking to my mom about the movie because she's going to watch it tonight.
Oh, cool.
She asked me what I thought of it, and I said the only thing I didn't like was when the Sanderson sisters were on the screen. I loved the story of them young, and I loved the story of
that was cool.
The young girls from today getting their kind of witching powers.
Yeah.
They would have just kept it with the backstory, and then book choosing new witches. Or
Right.
the mother witch coming in, the one that's the hawk or Rob.
Which, by the way, she was one of my favorite witches.
Yeah.
I loved her. Her look was amazing.
And she would have made sense to be the one that comes back.
Why didn't she come back?
I don't know. I fully expected her when at the very end when you see her the bird flying.
The bird. So maybe in part 3.
I don't know. They all said they're game for a part 3.
I know you sent me that text. You're like, keep watching, because I saw the music video of them singing in headphones, and I'm like, what? That was kind of cringy. That was really cringy to watch.
Very cringy.
But then I watched it and I was like, oh, so maybe that's why I sent you the Shaquille O'Neal gif, him going,
yeah.
I'm like, ooh, here we go.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, take a break from his hat.
It's still setting them up because the cat is with the black flame candles. It's still setting them up to bring them back again.
Yeah, black flame candle number 2.
Yeah.
I really did like the story about the girl getting the powers at 16. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
That did make me excited. I was like, oh, you witch.
It's a trope. It's a huge witch trope. They do the same thing with Sabrina. And wasn't it the witches in what's that?
Witches in Eastwick?
No. The other big 90s witch movie.
Oh, the one Sandra Bullock?
No, the one with the
what are you talking about?
Teenagers. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, is it an 80s movie? Because that's one of my other favorite witches. Oh gosh, what is it called? Teen Witch?
No, but Teen Witch is another good one. They do it in that too. It's a witches trope. It's like a movie trope with the witches. It's always like their 16th birthday they gain powers.
Yeah.
Although I did like the commentary that the one girl made about the witches and turning into witches at 16 being about an age thing with men. Which that's probably one of my favorite lines that has ever been spoken.
How cool was it? I did enjoy that they had Tony Hale in it. That played Forky. He played the Reverend and the Mayor in part 2.
Huh.
That guy's Forky.
Really?
Yeah, he's the voice of Forky from Toy Story.
I was wondering why he sounded familiar.
Tony Hale, yeah, didn't his voice kind of sound Forky-ish?
Yeah, but I couldn't figure out where he sounded familiar from. But that makes sense because that's how my house all the time.
Yeah, we have kids, so of course I was like, that's Forky. He was kind of a dorky, like he wouldn't. It's funny because it's like Disney for kids, and it's like he's trying to swear but he can't swear. Mm-hmm. I caught that. He's like, I'm having a very poopy night. Yeah. Instead of saying like shitty night or something. I can't get my gosh darn candy apple. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
I mean, I've been there.
I would have been like, I want my fucking apple. You know.
That's me with Starbucks when I get there too late and they've closed.
Yeah. I'm like, no. But there were a few things, yeah, like those few things that needed ironed out. I was like, ah. And what did you think about Billy Butcherson coming back?
He didn't really play that big of a role. He was just kind of there.
He didn't.
I mean, he literally was on screen for like a minute and a half, if even that.
Pretty much.
I did like the clarification of the story, though, the backstory on him.
Yeah.
Because
he's like, it was only one kiss.
Yeah. Well, because they made him sound like he was running from sister to sister in the original movie.
Yeah. Like he was some dirty, guy that was just some player.
Again, I would have liked more of the backstory rather than just that opening scene. I would have liked to have seen them growing up. How did we get from these tiny little teenagers to, the adult crazy witches?
He was kind of in the crowd in the beginning. He was. Yeah. But they didn't do a whole thing with it. They didn't really follow through with it.
And I didn't even need the love story between him and Sarah or wherever it would have been. I just wanted to see more of how they went from children to eating children.
Yeah, that was they did kind of gloss over that. Like I thought she got the book from the devil himself.
Right?
Remember that in part 1?
Yes.
It was given to her by the devil himself.
They said that, but instead some mother witch came and brought her the book. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
you remember that?
A lot of things don't make sense.
Were you thinking that too when you saw that woman giving her the book?
Yeah,
I thought the devil did it. Yeah, that was...
She don't look like the devil.
No, I thought maybe it was the devil, because when the bird came off the branch, I'm like, here we go, transforming into a devil. And then it was the badass looking, like really pretty, big boobied witch with awesome hair and cool makeup. She looked like a rock star. I was
literally
like, yes.
What I envisioned being when I said I wanted to become a witch.
Yeah. That was cool. I liked her. She was So I was thinking about it, and I was like, if I had a favorite witch, who would it be? Out of the Sanderson sisters, None of them. That one. That Mother Witch woman. She was cool. I liked her.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get to see her for very long. I
No.
mean, so that was, I had that question for you for later down the line. Mine is Mary.
You like Mary?
I
She was funny.
freaking love her. I think she's hilarious.
I love Kathy and Jimmy. She is a really funny lady.
Mm-hmm. She was the only one that I didn't mind seeing on the screen. The other two I felt kind of were like overacting a little bit.
Yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker, I've never been a big fan of a lot of her work. I mean, I've liked her in like a few things, like Flight of the Navigator when she was a teenager. Did you ever see that movie?
A long time ago.
She was in it. She was worked for the space, NASA, whatever. And I loved her in the First Wives Club, and that was it.
I think I probably know more of her like singing roles than I know anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
She sings?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean, I tried to watch Sex and the City, and I just did not care much for it. So
I can't watch it. I tried to. I didn't get it. I couldn't watch it.
I think maybe half a season, and I was just out. But
I just remembered, Bette Midler was with Sarah Jessica Parker in First Wives Club. They did do that movie together. Huh.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all three of them have done Broadway, so they've all kind of just bopped around in their different roles.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, so I didn't even
that.
think about it because I was asking my mom questions because she would have been age appropriate to go see this movie in the theater. So I was just asking her questions, and she's like, "I had small kids. I didn't go to the theater," which I guess makes sense.
But that makes sense. Yeah, we can't do that either.
So I mentioned how like I really was like digging Mary in this one, and she goes, "Well, her fault that she before this was Sister Act," and then it hit me. So she went between two Sister Act movies where she's playing a nun. She plays a witch who believes in Satan.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. I forgot about that. She was in Sister Act. That's right.
I loved that movie when I was a kid. So
me too. I did too.
I never put the pieces together. She goes from Catholic
I should watch that again.
Satanist to Catholic again.
Yeah, I forgot about that movie. Oh yeah. I really like Whoopi Goldberg. I don't like Whoopi Goldberg in a lot of stuff. Kind of like Sarah Jessica Parker. I only like Whoopi Goldberg in like Ghost when she played Etta Mae. I thought she was hilarious, and Sister Act, and that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot she was. Kathy and Jimmy was in that, and she does the voice on King of the Hill.
I went and looked up her acting. I looked up all of them, all their acting information. She did a lot of voiceovers, like a lot of voiceovers. Oh,
did she?
Yeah, because I was wondering where she disappeared to between the two movies, because I feel like I haven't really seen her in much, and she's been doing a lot.
Where'd she go?
Tons of.
Where'd you dig up? Oh, yeah, a lot of voice work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, good for her keeping her career going. A lot of actors go into voice work.
I did enjoy it too, kinda. I mean, there were some parts where I was like, "Oh, this is so great," but then there were like the few that we went over just now with the cringy parts that didn't make sense. They tried, and they brought it back. And maybe if they do a part 3, which it sounds like, it looks like they might do it.
If there's money to be made,
maybe it'll be better.
They will make the money.
I really cannot wait for the pitch meeting guy to do this movie. And on his trailer, I cannot wait. Damn. And then we got to talk about it.
So, okay. From
that
the
would
first
be great.
movie, did you have a favorite part in the first movie?
Oh, the favorite part. Okay. Oh my God. Let me think. I just watched it like yesterday too. God, I think all the parts with Thora Birch, but the favorite part of mine, I think the most favorite part of mine in that whole movie of part 1 was them singing "I Put a Spell on You" with the music. That was like my favorite part. And the Gary Marshall Penny Marshall scene, because I love Penny Marshall so much. I just I think she's so, or was, sadly the both of them have passed away because they were elderly, but those scenes, every time I saw the Penny Marshall and Gary Marshall scene, I'm like, oh my God, I get so like, I get full clamped. But yeah, it was really awesome. But yeah, that and the singing. Bette Midler's got a really great voice, and I forgot. I mean, as much as I cringed seeing the new songs in this part 2, it was really nice to hear her sing.
Well, I think it's because the new songs didn't fit the story.
It didn't. I didn't think that they should have sang Blondie. I love that song from Blondie, but from Blondie.
Yeah. And
not Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Did you see that too?
See what too?
There was a Sabrina the Teenage Witch episode where she sang One Way or Another.
Oh,
which is
the
funny.
old Sabrina.
Yeah,
Yes,
which I saw that and I was like, eh.
I thought you meant the new Netflix Sabrina, which I try to pretend
No.
didn't happen.
Well, so this one, I think it wasn't bad. There was just a couple issues with it. And part 1 still is like better.
Right.
I think part 1 is still better than part 2.
I agree.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And why didn't they bring back, they didn't even bring back the bully from part 1?
They didn't.
That's all who they brought back? It's just Doug Jones and then the witches.
I heard that there's a book series. I haven't read it, but I'm going to go find it now. But in the book series, the second book is Allison and Max get married and they have a daughter, and their daughter is the new witch.
What?
So
are you fucking kidding me?
I'm gonna go find this book series because I have to read this. Like I need to. I'll read it with my 5-year-old. I want to read it.
Go read it and let me know what happened. Why didn't they do that then in this part 2?
I don't think
That's
they followed the book
ridiculous.
series. I mean,
that disappoints me.
right.
Man.
But I mean, I guess I don't know. I liked the 3 witches. Well, I didn't like the one. I thought she was kind of irritating that she kept ditching her friends for her boyfriend. But
that was kind of weird.
I liked the other 2, and both those actresses I've seen do other things. I'm pretty sure the one who was like the main witch I've seen do other things. I know that the second, her friend, whose name I cannot remember now in the movie. I've seen her in a TV show, and the TV show was not great. But I watched the entire TV show for her scenes because I enjoyed her. Like, literally went through the entire only season they had. Just because I liked her character. But I thought they did really well. I liked their story. It didn't make a lot of sense the way that they formed the sisters into it. But
yeah. I think it could have done without the Sanderson sisters coming back.
Well,
but I did like the prequel. I liked how they were in the beginning of it, like you said, like when they're like it showed them as teenagers. That was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell who was who. Like they did a really good job casting. Whoever played the young Winifred did a good job.
Yeah.
They did a good job casting her. Absolutely, whoever that kid was.
And see, now they could have had the Sanderson sisters still be in it, just be only in the past. Never coming into the future. They could still have had Bette Midler and, they could have still had them just in the past.
Right. Before they got hung or something, you mean? Back in like the 1690s or 1700s. Yeah. That would have been really cool. It's like I know what they were trying to do. It was because of money. They want to bring them back. And the sisters are back. And it was, and how, I know they made a joke about it. They're like, they like to sing, ha, ha, ha. But when they were back and they were like singing a big show, like, who are they putting on a show for? And I know Sarah Jessica Parker was like, to scare her, but it was still kind of corny. They put on this like cabaret-ish, showcasing, like when they just got brought back.
Yeah.
And it was like this big presentation, like they were on stage, but it was in the middle of the woods and they got brought back. I don't know. If I got brought back after like 300 years or 29 years, I guess, and I wouldn't be like, la, 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 la. Right. I'd be like, oh, great, I'm back. Who can I F over now or
literally
something?
Popping up in song and dance. Like,
that's what I mean. Yeah, it was like really, really cringy and corny that they did that.
Yeah.
And I know they were trying to make this cute kids movie to give it the fun, family vibe, like Disney fun.
Without it. I was enjoying the vibe of the movie up until that point.
I feel like they were trying to make it for kids today, but it was mostly for us because we grew up with it. But for us, it was like,
I mean, yeah, at least for us. I guess there's probably people out there who freaking loved it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I don't know. The only thing I can say is I wish the songs were a bit better because they were kind of cringe. And how dare that guy lit that thing? I mean, I know they wouldn't have a story without it, but that guy that lit the black thing candle, what the hell?
Yeah, can
that guy, he's like, I just wanted them to come back.
What did you think about them adding him into the original story when we never saw him?
Oh, okay. So I have mixed feelings about it. I wish that he would have actually been in the original. Like, why didn't they get someone else that was in the original, walking around? They just added, and that guy, but I know he's been in some stuff and he's very funny. I've seen him in some things and he's a very good actor and a very comic relief, funny guy. But I don't know. I guess that works because they did fly around obnoxiously in part 1, carelessly so everyone can see them.
Right.
So it did work.
Well, he wasn't
but
the only one who mentioned that too. Somebody else had in the movie says something about how they saw them on stage at the city hall.
yeah, but they could have been actors. But that kid actually saw them flying.
No, I know, yeah, but like somebody else had made so like they were trying to connect it back to make him seem like other people had seen them too. You
Yeah,
know,
but
remember
everyone
that?
else was like, "What a great costume
Right.
that is!" So not everybody thought they were real.
Yeah.
He knew they were real. He saw them flying in the
I
air
know.
on the brooms
That
and
was-
vacuums and whatever.
It felt very forced. That's part of
Yeah.
the storyline. I didn't.
I just wish they would have like gotten more characters from part one, like the bully, the one that took his shoes in the beginning.
Yeah.
Remember that guy? They were just all 90s.
Well, yeah, because
That
even
was
the
just funny.
mayor and his family were not in the first movie, but apparently they've lived in Salem since Salem was witch trials.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right? It was just, they could have tweaked it a little bit better. They did okay. Part one's still my favorite.
yes,
Better than
same.
part, yeah. Now, this week, we agree on that.
Yes.
Part one is still the best one.
Yeah, it did definitely.
Part
'cause
two,
it was more put together, which
eh.
I'm kind of surprised by the fact that it didn't do better in the theaters.
I feel like part two was a tad bit forced.
Yes.
Like they tried to, maybe that's what it is. People wanted part two so bad, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is so exciting!" Because you ever do a project you're so excited for, but then you rush it, and you're like, "Oh crap, I shouldn't have rushed it."
Yeah,
That's probably what they did.
I will say I am very happy because a couple of years ago there was a rumor that they were going to bring Hocus Pocus back, and the rumor was Hocus Pocus was going to be set in New York and not in Salem, which didn't
What?
make much sense. But I think they
That
were
didn't
doing
make
that because
sense.
of Enchanted. Like that's when Enchanted was really popular.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was ever a Disney decision. I think fans were just making up crap. But I was
Which
like,
that's coming out soon too, I think. Right?
Disenchanted. Yes,
I'm excited.
I am too.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, we can totally do that because that's one of my. Enchanted was one of my favorite movies. It did not get its just due, I don't think.
No.
But yeah, so I.
It's sad when they remake it's really, I know we only got 5 minutes, but it really sucks when they remake something and then it's disappointing when they retell it
Yeah.
years later. I hate that.
Well,
Like
when they
Dexter.
retell it wrong.
They ruined Dexter. Huh?
Like when they retell it wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get it right. Sometimes it's good when they.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just best if you just leave it alone. Like, don't remake Beetlejuice. Or don't make a sequel. Like they're saying they are. That's dumb. Dumb. I don't even know what reboot. I can't even think at the top of my head right now that they actually did it justice redoing.
I have no. I don't think any of them.
Maybe the next episode will I know what
We can
they
go
did
through
that was
reboots.
right.
We should do that. We should go and sit
We
through
should go through reboots. Name reboots that actually got it right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I don't have any more final thoughts except for those things. My final thought is Hocus Pocus 1 is still the best one, better than 2.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on our talk about Hocus Pocus, and come join us two Dizzy Dames again for whatever we might talk about. I mean, anything pop culture-ish, movies, and if you want to put a comment below and give us a topic, go for it. Drop it in the comments. If you want to give us a topic to talk about, we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So you guys have a good night.
Night.